The Tragic Tale of Cain, God's Mark and a Life of Exile. Deconstructing the title. The title, The Tragic Tale of Cain, God's Mark and a Life of Exile, promises a deep dive into several interconnected themes. The Tragic Tale of Cain. This implies an exploration of Cain's actions, motivations, and the immediate consequences, focusing on the inherent sorrow and misfortune associated with his story. It necessitates a retelling of the narrative from Genesis 4. God's Mark. This specifically calls for an examination of the Mark of Cain, what it was, its purpose, its theological implications, and how it has been interpreted throughout history. A life of exile. This element requires an analysis of Cain's banishment, the nature of his wanderings, and the spiritual and physical ramifications of his severed relationship with God and community. The analysis will address each of these components comprehensively, weaving them into a coherent narrative suitable for Bible by candlelight. The script. Part 1. The hook, sowing the seeds of mystery. Beneath the flickering glow of a solitary candle, where shadows dance like ancient secrets, we turn our gaze to the earliest chapters of humanity's story. It is a tale etched not just in parchment, but in the very fabric of human experience. A narrative of first fruits, first sin, and the profound, enduring mystery of divine judgment. We speak tonight of Cain, the firstborn, whose name echoes with the tragic symphony of resentment, murder, and an indelible mark from the hand of God. How could the innocent beginnings of humanity yield such a bitter harvest of fratricide? What wisdom, what terrifying truths does this primeval story whisper across the millennia about justice, mercy, and the weight of our choices? Join us as we descend into the shadowed valley of Genesis, uncover the layers of sorrow and meaning within the tragic tale of Cain. Part 2. The Journey of Deep Discovery. The historical and cultural context. The dawn of agriculture and offerings. To truly grasp the weight of Cain's story, we must first set it within its primordial context. The book of Genesis, particularly these early chapters, paints a picture of humanity's nascent steps outside the Garden of Eden. Adam and Eve, now laboring under the curse, have birthed their first children, Cain, a tiller of the ground, and Abel, a keeper of sheep. This division of labor is crucial. It reflects the foundational economic activities of early human societies, agriculture and pastoralism. In ancient Near Eastern cultures, the act of offering sacrifices to deities was a universal practice, deeply ingrained in religious and social life. These offerings were expressions of gratitude, appeasement, and a desire for favor. The quality and manner of the offering often reflected the heart and intent of the worshiper. Thus, when Cain brought some of the fruits of the soil as an offering to the Lord, and Abel brought fat portions from some of the firstborn of his flock, they were engaging in a well-understood ritual, an attempt to bridge the gap between the human and the divine. The tension arises not from the act of offering itself, but from God's regard for Abel's offering and not for Cain's, sparking the inferno of envy that would consume Cain. Decoding the scripture evidence. The descent into darkness. The narrative in Genesis 4 is stark, almost cinematic in its brevity and power. God's rejection of Cain's offering is presented without explicit reason, a silence that has fueled centuries of theological debate. However, God's subsequent words to Cain offer a crucial insight. Why are you angry? Why is your face downcast? If you do what is right, will you not be accepted? But if you do not do as right, sin is crouching at your door. It desires to have you, but you must rule over it. This powerful imagery of sin crouching at the door suggests that the problem lay not with the offering itself, but with Cain's heart and attitude. Perhaps his offering was half-hearted, begrudging, or lacked the genuine faith and devotion that characterized Abel's. The story then accelerates to its horrifying climax. Now Cain said to his brother Abel, "Let's go out to the field." While they were in the field, Cain attacked his brother Abel and killed him. This is the first murder, a profound rupture in the fabric of human community, born from jealousy and unmanaged anger. When God confronts Cain, "Where is your brother Abel?" Cain's defiant and infamous response, "Am I my brother's keeper?" encapsulates the very essence of human denial and the rejection of responsibility. God's knowledge, however, is absolute. "What have you done?" "Listen, your brother's blood cries out to me from the ground." The earth itself becomes a witness, absorbing the innocent blood and echoing its plea for justice. This motif of blood crying out foreshadows later biblical themes of divine justice and the sacredness of life. The hidden theological meaning, the weight of choice and the nature of grace. Beyond the surface narrative of murder and punishment, Cain's story carries profound theological weight. It serves as an early, vivid demonstration of free will and its tragic consequences. God presents Cain with a choice: to master sin or be mastered by it. Cain's failure to rule over sin highlights humanity's propensity towards evil when unchecked by divine guidance or personal discipline. It reveals the corrupting power of envy and pride, illustrating how quickly bitterness can escalate into violence. Furthermore, the story illuminates the concept of divine justice. Cain's punishment is severe. "You will be a restless wanderer on the earth." The very ground he tilled will now refuse to yield its produce to him, symbolizing his complete alienation from the natural order and his former way of life. This is not merely physical exile, but a spiritual one, separating him from the fertile presence of God. Yet, even in judgment, we witness a flicker of divine mercy. Cain laments, "My punishment is more than I can bear. Today you are driving me from the land, and I will be hidden from your presence. I will be a restless wanderer on the earth, and whoever finds me will kill me." In response, God places a mark on Cain, so no one who found him would kill him. This mark of Cain is perhaps the most enigmatic element of the story. It is not necessarily a brand of shame, but a sign of protection, an act of grace amidst severe judgment, ensuring that even a murderer is afforded a measure of security, preventing a cascading cycle of vengeance. It testifies to God's ultimate sovereignty over life and death, even in the darkest corners of human depravity. Controversies and theories. Interpreting the mark and the meaning of exile. The mark of Cain has been a subject of intense speculation and harmful misinterpretation throughout history. For centuries, various physical attributes, particularly dark skin, were erroneously and tragically linked to this mark, leading to deeply racist doctrines. Modern scholarship overwhelmingly rejects such interpretations, emphasizing that the biblical text does not describe the mark as physical or racial. Instead, it is understood as a divine sign, a supernatural indicator visible only to those who might seek to harm Cain, or perhaps an internal spiritual marker. Its exact nature remains a mystery, underscoring the inscrutability of divine action. Another point of discussion revolves around Cain's fear of being killed, given that humanity at this point seems to consist only of Adam, Eve, and potentially their direct descendants. Who would find him and kill him? This question has led to theories about the existence of other, unnamed human populations outside the direct lineage of Adam and Eve, or perhaps it implies the rapid proliferation of Cain's own descendants who might seek vengeance. This ambiguity highlights the compressed nature of the early Genesis narratives, which often focus on theological truths rather than providing exhaustive historical details. Cain's life of exile is therefore not just a physical displacement but a profound spiritual and social alienation, a life lived forever separated from the initial promise of paradise and the direct favor of God. Part 3. The Echo. The tragic tale of Cain, therefore, is far more than a simple narrative of sibling rivalry and murder. It is a foundational story that lays bare the human condition, our capacity for profound evil, the corrosive power of envy, and the weight of choices that reverberate through eternity. Yet, within its shadows, we glimpse the complex nature of divine justice, not merely as retribution, but as a system interwoven with mysterious grace and protection, even for the most grievous of sinners. The mark of Cain, whether seen as a burden or a shield, compels us to reflect on the enduring tension between punishment and mercy, and the unyielding sovereignty of God. As the candle flickers, casting long shadows across our understanding, we are left to ponder: what hidden resentments do we harbor? What sin crouching at the door do we fail to master? And how do we reconcile the swift hand of judgment with the whispers of an undeserved grace that continue to echo through the tragic, yet endlessly profound story of Cain?